Good evening, everyone. We will begin our Board of Commissioner work session, February 19th, 2026, at 6:04 p.m. And we will start with new business A, economic development position. So are we gonna, I guess we'll just begin.
Thank you, Mayor, Board. Back in budget season, there was a lot of talk about the economic development position and if it was needed and so forth. And I requested that I be allowed to show the value or prove the value or just be able to have a little bit of time to get it together. And that was granted, and that's appreciated. I'm not really interested in a debate, going back and forth. I feel like that has been done substantially over the months. What I want to do is kind of go over what I feel like is the value for the record, and then I feel like the board either agrees or disagrees. And I think we're to the point that probably that is not going to change no matter what. And so if someone strongly disagrees with the position, I would recommend calling a vote and during a regular meeting. But I just want to go over some things. Some of the things that are highlighted that I sent you, this does not mean that the economic development position was 100% involved, but that they were involved. This does not mean that other people did not do things for these as well. The economic development position was involved in some of the processes in the sidewalk and the Cumberland Highway 100 intersection. They were highly involved in the TDOT Interstate Lighting Initiative Grant. They were involved in the TDOT Transportation Planning Grant for applying for a grant for the thoroughfare plan. And they have been involved in seeking funds for transportation, infrastructure, stormwater, and city facilities, and should continue to do so. Also, other economic development activities that have been done and will be ongoing, establishing relationships with entities that can be leveraged for the benefit of Fairview, including GNRC, TDOT, TDEC, Williamson County Government, Williamson Inc., and state and federal representatives. Fostering collaborative relationships between the city businesses, influential entities, and the city through initiatives such as Town Coffee and forthcoming Invest Fairview and Lunch and Learn initiatives. Seek funding opportunities for city projects. Working with several businesses with interest in Fairview, developing a business inventory and a property inventory. Like I said, those are some things that have been going on and will continue. Some goals and objectives we have, two major goals that I developed through this process of going through looking at our economic fabric in the city is two main goals is to promote balanced and responsible growth. The 2040 plan suggests as a contract for a retail and lodging market analysis. That is something that we can do in a pretty short order. That probably most of that would be done by the economic development officer. Another objective would be recruit light manufacturing business. This is too something that can be done pretty quick, primarily through the economic development officer. The next is from the 2040 comprehensive plan is to work on something for the I-40 and I-840 locations, maybe a logistics hub or mixed business park or some type of development. This is the I-840 is a little bit harder with no water and sewer capabilities at the moment, but I think the lighting project will enhance or increase the speed of possibly the I-40 possibilities. Another is facilitate meetings with state and county workforce development providers to make sure local businesses are included in all outreach efforts, and that available programming is marketed to existing and prospective businesses. One other thing from the 2040 comprehensive plan is to create basic business retention and recruitment packages, and that is something that has been attempted in the past, but has not been very professionally done. We've been leaning a lot on Williamson Inc. and what kind of brochures and stuff they provide. Also, we need to update the 2040 plan. Economic Development Officer would be assist in that process. There will be a lot of staff involved in that. That was Objective 2. Objective 3, coordinate and deliver land and green space preservation opportunities to the community. This would probably be primarily the Economic Development Officer position. We want to reach out to folks and make sure they know how to preserve their property if they want to do that. Objective 4 is contract for a major thoroughfare plan. That is another objective that the Economic Development Officer would be involved in assisting staff. There will be other folks involved, of course. Our second goal is to enhance the quality of life. We have the Historical Village Project. Economic Development Officer would be involved in assisting staff with some of the grant administration and working with Kimley Horn on some items there. Objective B, Veterans Park. We've got a lot of things we want to do at Veterans. They would work with park staff but it wouldn't be primarily them, but just being in an assistant role. In Bowie Nature Park, we've got some playground shade, covered pavilion, perimeter trail bridge to be completed. The funding options is going to be, we would need the Economic Development Officer to take a key role in that, and then would assist staff in other parts of the project. Objective 5D, more park stuff, planning and develop for the new park in Belhaven. So much of what the Economic Development Officer will be doing is seeking funding and helping to procure that funding. Also, maybe be involved in public surveys and getting input from the public. Objective 6, improve access to educational opportunities and strengthen workforce development. That would primarily be an Economic Development Officer be put at a role, and they would do a lot of the research, a lot of the heavy lifting, and get in contact with the folks that we need to do to get provide opportunities for our community. Objective 7A, invest in public safety initiatives. As we grow and continue to keep public safety as a priority, I would expect the economic development would assist staff in seeking different types of funding options Public safety is extremely expensive, and that would be an area that I would hope for assistance. That is the gist of what I see the value of the position. And like I said, I'm not really as interested in debating or going into a whole lot of specifics, because I feel like that has kind of been gone through throughout the meetings and on the reports. But I guess I would really ask the board to just search your heart. If you feel like this is a position that is not of value to the city, and you strongly feel that way, call for a vote. If you believe it's a value to the city, I'll just ask you to vote your conscience. That is all I have to present. I have some other information, but nothing really that I want to go over tonight. I am excited about the medical facility. I am excited about a few other things that are in the works, but it's just I'm ready to make a decision and see where we're going to go with this position or not. Thank you.
Doherty. Good evening. Thank you for that exposition, and I'm also excited about the possibility of getting medical facilities here. So that is something I think the city should be looking forward to. Is there a reason that the economic development officer isn't here tonight to help us understand a little bit more of this?
That was on my request.
Okay, thank you. And can I just, I've got a couple, unless somebody else wants to go. You're asking us to go forward and without a whole lot of conversation and debate. And I understand how you feel, because I feel like I've been kind of going around in circles trying to land on things. And I first think it's important to get things out into a record. People are watching, people can go back and listen. So I'll try to stay focused on it, but it might not be the conversation that you hope to have, or then we might have more questions than you want, and I hope that you can just bear with us. We've been given an hour to do this. We've got 43 minutes left, and I don't know how many other questions other people have, so I'm just requesting your patience and forbearance while we decide what we want to do. Thank you. You've provided to us a summary background, which you just read almost in total, but you skimmed through it some, so it's a little bit more detailed what we have in front of us. How much of this did you write?
The majority.
How much of it did our economic development officer write?
As far as writing it, I did 100% of the writing. I did have some input from the economic development officer and the planning city planner.
So Mr. Greer, our city planner, didn't write any of it?
No, ma'am.
And Ms. Carroll, our economic development officer, didn't write any of it?
No, ma'am.
I mean, I can keep going. I just am trying to create some space for other people, but I can keep asking
Well,
questions.
if I was just waiting, but I can chime in.
Yep.
I really feel like this doesn't need to be a personal, the word attack comes to mind, but a personal, this doesn't need to be personal, period. It needs to be about the position. So I really feel like if we have ideas or comments, it should be related to the position and not a person, because with what we've been given, I feel like the person is doing exactly what the job entails. So if we want something different, I think we need to be clear about that. But also, just seeing the freestanding emergency department and the whole entire property that's going to be full of different medical options for our community. This is just one item that she has not been able to disclose because that is the way it works. And I feel like, you know, anyone in this position would be doing the same thing. They would be reaching out, going to different events, meetings, speaking with people across the board in different fields that would love to come to Fairview and open their business, but not necessarily be able to disclose that. So planting the seeds and speaking to different people who would benefit our community, it's not speaking and then it happens. It's kind of cultivating those relationships to show what Fairview has to offer, and then those people will come to us and disclose or allow us to disclose in their timing. So I really feel like this needs to be more about the position and not the person, but that's my opinion.
I have a couple of comments that I'd like to make. One, Mr. Doherty, the first thing you said to us when you sat down is that you are not interested in debate. Now, if I have it correctly, I believe your position serves at the pleasure of the board. Is that not correct?
100%.
Okay, so why do you direct us of what to do?
I'm not directing you what to do.
You did direct us. You said you are
I
not
told you
interested in debate.
what I was not interested in, but obviously you can say what you want to say and debate all you want to.
But you're not interested in any of it? Definitely not. Okay.
When I developed this, I had input. I met with the economic development officer. I would say every couple of weeks, and say, hey, you know, we would go over. But I felt like it was imperative that I had my handle on where do we want to go, what do we need to be doing, and it's not. Didn't feel like it was appropriate for an employee to tell me where we were going and what we needed to be doing. Thank you.
Okay, but you feel the necessity to tell us where we need to be. Is that correct?
I don't know if I understand
So
your
you
question.
just told the board that you are not interested in debate. And at our last meeting, you also said to move on, where we are the board.
This is where I want. I feel like no matter how much we talk, I feel like there's decisions. I don't know that there's any debate that is going to change anybody's mind on how they feel about this position. I feel like there's value. I feel like it will continue to benefit the city for years and years. But it does not. I do not. When I say I do not want to debate, I do not want to be inefficient and non-productive when I have people sitting in meetings on the clock, and it's just as a finance guy, I just see all that and I'm like, you know, I see the value. I feel like the highlighted portions is my vision of the value. I feel like it's up to the board to say, I agree or don't agree.
Well, so I'm going to cut you off because I know we're short on time, and you've already said all this already, and you highlighted things, and you gave us page 19 through whatever, but not the first 18 pages, which is fine as well. And we are being assumed that we're attacking one person individually. We're not. We're not attacking anybody. We're talking about the position. And in a workshop, we're asking questions. That's what debates do, is ask questions, because we are not allowed to talk to each other about any of this. We're not allowed to ask questions outside of being on this dais. So this is the time during a workshop to ask questions and debate these things, so that we don't utilize personal time from city staff or anything like that during a board session. Is that correct, right?
What question would you like to ask, Commissioner Buffini?
I'm just saying in general right now. Isn't this
I didn't
the
say
time
I
to-
would not answer or reply.
Right.
I said it's just I think we've beat it pretty good over the past months.
Okay. Thank you. I've collected my thoughts and I've decided how I want to proceed with this, because I think that I've actually been the instigator of a lot of the conversation about this position. If we all remember back when we were doing our budget conversation for this fiscal year, we had a debate about whether to keep this position, to reduce the pay. Vice Mayor McDonald said, let's give it 6 months. We ended up with a series of documents that I believe you wrote, that I thought the Economic Development Officer was writing to show us how the work would be done. So I have a few things that I'm going to say. We're discussing two different things here. To the point that Mayor Anderson made, absolutely, we're discussing a position completely separate from any humans. We're talking about what's best for the city. We're talking about how to best allocate resources. We're talking about what the city needs while it's growing. But it's not completely honest to say we're not discussing something else here also, which is how the position is being executed and the oversight of that position. And the propriety of this board is not to talk to the direct staff person about their position, so I'm glad that you're here tonight, and I'm glad that I'm having this conversation with you. There are a few things that I need to have out in the open, and I'd like for you to respond. When we're talking about the Economic Development Officer position, and we say we now have this new potential emergency department coming, I'd like to know, when did this conversation first start, though? When was the first, we've been talking about this potentially coming and maybe other facilities coming too? How long ago was that?
I'm not sure what the date was when she started talking with them. It was at some meeting, I believe it was a GNRC meeting.
So from what I understand, this has been an ongoing conversation for a long time. So this particular project probably got some feet under it most recently, and I think the date is last May. But from what I understand, these take years, and I believe that's something that the Economic Development Officer has said herself. It takes a really long time. So this particular project didn't start last May. The conversations started a long time ago. Just like the conversations for the light at Cumberland and 100 and Crowcut. I believe they started back in 2017. And they dropped and they fell off and they came back, and we have them now. And I think one of the reasons we have them is because we had some money that we had to allocate. And so it is helpful that our Economic Development Officer helped to further that along, and I think that's fantastic and great and noteworthy. But also, we had that already in the works. The lighting project was something that was being discussed back in 2019, I believe. So these projects have been discussed for a very long time. So it's not completely accurate to say that they all just got started and we can credit them to one person. And I do think that in the beginning you said something like other people have been involved. But it's really important for people to understand that these did start a long time ago and we didn't have an Economic Development Officer position. So why is it worth having this conversation today? Not because we're picking on a person and not because we're unhappy with a person, but again, do we need a position, and do we like the way that the position is being executed? We're coming on 2 years of having it, and that's something that this board needs to decide. So back to the position itself, did we have an Economic Development Officer when our banks opened, our first banks? No, we did not. Did we when our gas stations came? No, we did not. Did we have an Economic Development Officer when Publix, Pizza Hut, Walmart, any of our Mexican restaurants, our Subways, Jade Walk. You get where I'm going with this. Did we have one? No, we did not. So the value is in positioning and coming up with a plan on how we can grow. So this takes me a little bit to how it's been executed. The original posting for this, and this is one of the issues and one of the questions that I've been asked by people who voted me into this seat have asked me to ask. So as tiresome as other people might find it, I'm asking it because I've been asked to and I represent people. And we should all be up here with the interest in doing that very job because we are public servants. So the question I have is, not really one question, but this position was posted with a pay range of $93,614 to $105,362. It was hired in at $110,631.14. And the date of the offer letter is March 21st, 2024. So that was 23 months ago, almost to the day. What's the salary today?
I believe it's 116 or 118, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Are you sure about that?
I'm pretty sure.
I'm happy to wait if you want to look it up and get the actual number because I'm pretty sure it's higher than that. I'm also pretty sure that it includes a car that wasn't in the offer letter in the original package. I'm pretty sure that if we look at the actual cost of this position, it jumps very high. And it's right and proper for people who are paying taxes to ask about that and to say, is this a return on the investment? One of the difficulties that I've faced since I came up here onto the board is that when I ask these questions, it's treated as though I'm attacking a person. Every dollar that we spend is somebody's hard-earned tax money. We cannot lose sight of that. And with all due respect, I don't think that you do. But I think that you're misunderstanding my position in coming and asking you these questions. And it would be helpful if it was seen as more of a partnership and open, rather than us seeming like we're somehow attacking somebody for asking for a justification on a position that's not 2 years old but has a very high pay salary, a company car. We're not getting clear reports on lunches and attendance at gatherings that we're paying fees for people to attend. And when we ask for it, we're treated like we're personally attacking somebody, and that is simply not the case. Has this position ever been formally evaluated?
I see what she does. And
No, sir.
We talk,
When I started at the board, one of the things I asked you was to start formal staff evaluations.
and I'm still going to do that. And
You're-
I will. I've got that in the works here, and should have that out this month.
I started here in December of 2024. It was December 5th. And I think I had asked for this by the second meeting in January of 2025. And it was because I was seeing pretty rapid pay increases, and I wanted to know on what basis are we making those decisions and why. And if you have a rational basis and you're the city manager, you can make that decision, then that's fine. But when I'm facing people who are voting and who I owe something to, and they're asking me questions and I can't answer it, then that's not okay. That's not okay with me, and I'm going to come back and ask you. So there has been no evaluation. Last August, I provided to you some documents I said that I would give you that are sample evaluations that could have been used to help further along the process. I've never heard anything back about that. There's been no report back and forth. So while this conversation is about the economic development officer position, it's also about how it's been executed and some of the questions that people have, rightfully so, about how it's been compensated, and then how the return on the investment is looking for us. And one might say I haven't been here for very long, and with all due respect, I'm not a child sitting at the adult table. I do expect questions answered, and I do want this explained to me if I don't understand it. But I think that these are fair questions. So to put it as a debate or somehow unfair isn't right for us. You should want to evaluate this position too. It was written with virtually no outcomes, no way to measure success, no way to measure if she's not successful. It was just written, and there isn't anything specific and clear. And that could have been cleaned up with an evaluation process in the past 2 years. And I asked for it so we could avoid having this conversation today for that very reason. But it's so muddy and so murky and so confusing. And that's why we keep chasing it around circles because we're still not clear on what success even looks like. Because I ask you for these documents and you write them. And so, sir, I've got a question for you. If you're going to write these documents, why are we paying somebody else to do the work?
I mean, Tom is her boss. Should he not write what she needs to do as his employee?
He wrote the job description. The employee does the work, Mayor.
But he instructs her what work to do. And also, I mean, restaurants are going to come. Every city in our every municipality in our county has an economic development officer. And we also, I would say that you probably determine what all the different job, people, people who work for the city and the department heads make according to a range that is looked across the board. And I mean, I know that the police chief and the fire chief, when we were determining their substantial raises at one point, they had documentation that showed a range across our county as to what they were being paid, and a lot of that determined that. And then I saw the range for economic development officer, and actually the economic development position is on the lower end of that range from what I saw. But also this, this campus that is going to house this standalone emergency department that Patty's been working on for 6 months and made the connections in these meetings that a small fee is paid for her to attend so she can make these connections and bring wonderful business to our community. It's a necessity. I just don't understand why this isn't seen as something that's needed. And our other positions and our other staff, they don't have time to go out and cultivate these relationships and bring these businesses to our community that benefit our community and benefit the people here who are, I would say, more than happy for their tax dollars to go towards this. Because I don't know about you, but I hear every day, when are we going to get this? When are we going to get that? We could use an emergency room because we're 45 minutes away from a hospital. And I was told that this would start in 14 months. So, maybe to completion of the whole campus 3 years, but I see that sooner. So I don't know who are we going to put what this position has been accomplishing. What staff member are we going to put that on the back of? Because I know Ethan doesn't have the time. We're looking for help for him. So I just don't see, who else would be doing this. This position, in my opinion, is definitely needed. And we can look across the board to see what the rates are that are being paid. And I believe it's completely fair.
Well, I appreciate that. When we had a conversation, they would say that the conversation was pretty slow. Patty would have a conversation and then it would end and they'd kind of go under for several months and then surface back. So this wasn't necessarily a shoulder to shoulder. So what's happening in between is a curiosity I have, and I appreciate that, and I'm glad to have a counterpoint to what I'm saying. But Mr. Daugherty, you didn't answer my question. And I'm sorry, but the mayor can't answer my question for you.
Is there several questions in what you asked, or
She wants to know her exact pay.
No, I don't want to know. Well, I do want to know that, but no, that was the last question I asked you. Is if you are writing these things, and you're the one directing how it's going, 2 years in with somebody who's getting paid well above what the posted salary was, why are you doing all of that work? And we're paying somebody to do this. And
I thought I already answered that. I said because I wanted to have the vision for that department and for that position. I did not feel that it was correct to have an employee lay out what their goals and objectives were. I felt like that needed to come from me.
Okay, so did you write the job description?
Yes.
You wrote the job description. So in the job description, when it says to collect, analyze, and report economic data related to the city's economic performance, that's not part of it. Identify economic development challenges and opportunities. Isn't that what's in this summary background that you wrote? Because I'm reading directly from the job description, which is why I'm asking these questions and I keep coming back to it. Because this is what's expected, and people are not happy with having a high-paid position in the government that isn't doing the things that it's supposed to be doing. And I'm not saying about a person, but it's just not doing those things. So the way it's been executed and the way the job description was written, it isn't really the same. And if everyone's so busy and you're so busy, then this could be done by the person that's being paid to do the job.
I probably could have, yes, but I wanted to do it.
I've never had a boss say, I'm going to hire you. Why don't you tell me what you're going to do in my company? I've always had a boss say, I'm hiring you, and here's what I expect from you and what I expect you to do. So I don't know that it's appropriate for an employee to determine their own, I would think the boss would tell them what to do, not the employee tell the boss what they're going to do.
Okay. So, I mean, we could keep going, and I feel like this is getting a little bit circular. I'll respond one more time to that statement with yet another point that I have to it, which is when you have an entry-level staff person, then sure, you'd have to give them direction, and you would pay them an entry-level salary. When you have a person that you're paying above the posted salary, which my guess is it would be, the only rational reason would be because that person has expertise, then you would expect them to perform at an expert level, not an entry level. I would not want my boss to tell me how to strategize my job. If that's an actual function, I would expect that I was hired to do that and not to be infantilized and have somebody write my job for me. They've told me the description, now set me free and let me do it. And if people are going to speak about how well I'm doing it, then also let me do the work is how I would think about it. And I appreciate that you've done this, and I think it should have been tandem. I think it would be great. But when I asked questions about the reports at the last meeting, our economic development officer couldn't respond to that. And that's what is concerning about this. It's why it's worth having this conversation.
Mayor, if I may. Yes. Wasn't sure if I was going to comment on any of this, but I'll throw out my 2 cents. I think there's a lot of fair points being made. You have, and I think a piece of it, right, is the fact that it's a brand new position. It's not something that we've had in the past. It's not, we used to have this position, we got all the stuff out of it, we hired this individual, and now all of a sudden expectations aren't there. So it's a brand new position, right? So you're naturally blazing a trail, per se, that we have not gone down. So I think that the elevated amount of criticism of the role is acceptable just due to the nature that we're still figuring out what that role looks like, right? Were there things said from sources that maybe regret making it a little bit more personal? I'm sure. But I think at the end of the day, it's constructive to have this conversation. I think better things have come from it. I think our current economic development officer reluctantly would probably admit that, that there's some positives that have come from these conversations, right? I think this is a good example of it. We're getting information standardized on how we want it to be presented to us. That's a box checked, right? We're talking about what the future of this position looks like from an expectations perspective. That's a conversation that wasn't happening prior. So to your credit, we're at least talking about that, right? And if anything, it's benefiting the citizens of this community to have a more buttoned-up position with more clearly defined goals and expectations for that. So I think, again, there's positives that come out of it. Now, do we continue to have this conversation? I'm not sure if there's any more value to be had from it at this point in time. However, you know, the conversation about annual reviews, and I think it's a healthy thing to have. I've said this from the beginning, and you know, if we're putting up these type of numbers, then I don't think a review should be anything anyone should be concerned about. However, I think as a citizen of this community, when you're just knowing what the little bits of information that you get, without having a review on paper, and this is not me saying that it's not warranted. I'm just simply saying, without a review on paper that you can reference as to why raises are being given, to go from a $15,000 increase over 2 years without a review is, I think a lot of people would raise their hand for a job like that. I know I've never received a raise like that without a review. I think it would be beneficial to all parties, you, the individual who serves in that role, whoever it might be at the time, and all roles for that matter, to have a review on paper. It is kind of crazy to me that we don't do that. I understand it's government and it's not the private sector, but they're still employees, there's still expectations. There should be some way to measure whether they're doing their job, which I believe a lot of our employees are. I don't think this isn't a witch hunt to uncover something, but I think it's just good practice from a healthy business perspective. To digress from that, I think there's good that's come from this conversation, as much as there has been difficult and repetitive conversations. It's still making for a stronger economic development office position and a stronger Fairview. So that is all I have.
And I do have one more suggestion. So something that's come up and it's been a point of challenge. And first, thank you, Vice Mayor McDonald. That was well said and I appreciate it. But, you know, the idea that we don't know anything about projects going on. I understand confidentiality. I understand why that's vital and important. But there are ways to communicate to the board so that we can see a needle moving in some direction. There are multiple ways that that can be done. It can be done through you, through our city attorney. There doesn't have to be explicit naming of who's in conversations, but it cannot be behind a complete wall from us. We have to know that things are being done and that they're being moved along. It looks like nothing is being done, and that communication has to improve. And I know it's challenging, but there are ways to do it. And I've had conversations about some of the ways that other jurisdictions do engage in communication with their board.
I would be open to looking at any of those options.
Mayor,
Yes, Commissioner Hall?
I'd like to take us through a little bit of a history of Fairview that I have quite a bit of knowledge from years gone by. Before we even had thoughts of promoting businesses and this type of thing for Fairview, I was nominated and put on the industrial board, which met one time a year. We were required by the state to meet one time a year. So for a couple of years, I went along with that, and I was a commissioner at the time also. So some of the ideas that come along through the years was, if someone asked me about what are you doing in Fairview, this type thing, I would say basically we would love to have a grocery store, or love to have a fast food restaurant, etc. Well, a friend of mine that I worked with quite regularly was a developer also. Well, he started looking at property here, and he found a spot across the street, which turned out to be Food Line. And constantly, I was checking with him every 3 months to see if there was any negotiation going on there. So finally, one day, I got the call that he thought they was fixing to close on that piece of property and bring in McDonald's at the time. So this was a commissioner push in our town. The other thing that I think I had a huge part in was the Bowie Commons, the Publix that's here. I met with them several times. We had no economic development division. And these are the type things that I would love to see this board continue with, the economic development division, because through the years we've lost Target, we've lost Lowe's, we've lost a tile manufacturing company, we've lost a restaurant out at the interstate, we've lost a hotel, because we had no person to sit down at the table and talk to these people that would bring businesses to Fairview. So I'm, for one, that's for the whoever y'all decide who hires. I mean, but I'd like to see the position kept to help sit at the table and help bring businesses to this town. And a lot of this goes back to my dad's wishes on a lot of this stuff, and I will always continue that. If they need me at the table to help sit down and do so, I will do whatever I can to help bring it to this town. Some of these things that's been mentioned in here, Patty and I had a lot to do with some of this. That's the only thing I'm going to say about Miss Patty. But I would like to see the position stay here, where that they can sit at the table with the property owner, with the prospective client, where they can bring businesses and things that our citizens really need in this town. That's all I have to say.
I can understand why a $20 million development would want, especially when there's, several of the same type business out there. I can understand why they would want to keep it confidential. That's why you have somebody in that position that works directly with them until they're ready to reveal. The concern is, can you always trust everyone to keep it confidential? And that does not happen. So that is the concern of the people bringing these big multi-tens of $1 million projects, not a restaurant or a, little restaurant, or maybe if it's a big chain, they'd want to keep it confidential. But I think the concern is you've got HCA, you've got Vanderbilt, you've got Williamson Medical, and the first one who buys the property and gets their foot in the door first, they're here. The analysis has been done, and Fairview and Murfreesboro are the two top in need of an emergency department. So, I have no doubt we're going to see this completed, but, there are other major players, and to ask a group to keep something confidential is very hard, because a lot of times that doesn't happen. So I can see why they would ask for confidentiality. If there's a way to go about talking about it without breaking the confidentiality, then that can happen. But when you've got a client of that magnitude asking you to keep it confidential, I think in order to not lose them, that has to be honored.
Mr. Carter, are you comfortable? Are you settled? You just came in. Yes? Okay. Can you advise us about how this might be possible?
Yeah, I was listening to the mayor. So the way that's is the economic development director, or the person in that position, works directly with the city attorney and with the city administrator, because the city attorney can communicate with the Board of Commissioners confidentially. Also, Mr. Doherty can contact each of you individually, and typically projects like this in other cities are given code names with very little detail revealed if there's public action needed, and the code name is used until the project's revealed. So it doesn't just stay with one person, and it's, now, as going to the mayor's point, for that to work, the Board of Commissioners needs to trust each other, that we're not going to try to one-up each other by being the first to, post it on Facebook or do whatever else and try to, gain some personal advantage from it or electoral advantage. And so that may or may not be what the mayor was talking about.
Absolutely, I was referring to that.
Okay, so I just put a real
Let's
fine
just make
point
that
on.
clear.
Just put a fine point on what the concern was. So that's what I was hearing, but I also didn't want to rephrase it improperly. But, for the process to really work, the Board of Commissioners or the Board of Mayor and Aldermen or whatever you have in whatever city, they need to trust each other and work together and trust their staff. And so, if that is not the current state here in Fairview, then that's something we need to continue to work on, because the mayor is correct that a lot of these players that come in, they're looking for stable governance, right? And big employers are looking for stable governance. And if they don't sense it, there's lots of other places they can do business. And I'm certainly not calling Fairview unstable or saying the governance is unstable. I'm not saying that at all. So please don't hear me say that. I'm saying if that's the perception or there's concern that the commissioners aren't rowing in the same direction, or they're, not putting the city before them personally, or if that's the perception, then it creates difficulty with attracting the type of high-quality development that you would like to see. I'm not talking about residential development. I'm talking about commercial and industrial development, jobs. So, at some point, Fairview is not just a bedroom community. It's a community that's self-supporting, and there's not, lines of traffic leaving at 7 a.m. and lines of traffic coming back at 5 p.m. Some of that is just it takes a big enough population. It takes an educated population to achieve that. So some of it just to work over time, but it also takes stable governance with a team that trusts each other and trusts staff to do their job, and not keep confidential things confidential with regards to economic development, because you're dealing with a lot of competitiveness. But again, the way to do that is through the city attorney, with the city manager contacting each of you individually, and or the attorney communicating in an attorney-client communications via email, or if there's some sort of litigation, executive sessions, which are appropriate when there's litigation. But that's how you go about it, and that's how other towns go about it.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, we will take a 10-minute recess and start back about 7:10.